Hi, everybody. I want to start going over the main points of Her Point is the Art of Summarizing from um, They Say, I Say, fifth edition, by talking about verbs. I'd like to show you a list of robust, vigorous verbs that you can use in expressing agreement or disagreement or making recommendations or making a claim. Oftentimes, we tend to use the same verb over and over again when making a claim. So now you can see there are other verbs to use. So you can try a variety of them until you find the one that you're really comfortable with. So, for example, insist, okay, which is a pretty emphatic verb, uh, or observe, which is kind of the opposite, it's more quiet. The second group of verbs for expressing agreement, the one that I wasn't familiar with is celebrate the fact that. And once I noticed that, once I knew that such a phrase existed, I began to see it in the readings that I have done. So people actually use this. Um, so we can try this, which will make your sentence into at least a complex sentence. It complicates it makes the tone sound more complex. Or you can try acknowledge or support, or you could be understated by using do not deny. And then we also have verbs for questioning or disagreeing. Complain is a good example. We also have some pretty formal verbs such as renounce, repudiate, okay, or more common ones, contend, complicate. Finally, verbs for making recommendations. This usually comes at the end of the essay. So we have urge, we have warn, we have call for, okay, and we have advocate. And we'll come back to this verb, advocate, for making recommendations in a later slide. All right, so the title of the chapter is Her Point is the Art of Summarizing. The Art of Summarizing. So there are three aspects to the art of summarizing. The first one is uh, you must suspend or delay your belief or disbelief when summarizing the source. So park your ideas in the garage. Um, and the second point actually is not likely to occur if you observe the first point. The second point is called the closest cliche syndrome. In other words, instead of expressing truly what the writer says, you distort it or misrepresent it so that it fits in with your concept or your argument. This is called the closest cliche syndrome. The problem with this summary then is that it's no longer true to the writer. It's true to yourself. So this ties in with the first point. You want to suspend your belief or your preconceived idea about the topic of the piece that you're summarizing. The last one is the most important one. Writing a good summary does two things. One, it represents the writer truly, um, and uh, it also pivots to a point that you want to make. So the summary then is a transition, okay, um, to your argument. Yeah, it shouldn't be a summary for the sake of. It shouldn't be a summary that exists in and of itself, not related to your point. And this takes practice to do well. So, what should a summary not be? Well, it should not be something like this. author X says many different things on his topic. First he says, then he makes a point that also he says, you get my point. It becomes like a laundry list. It gets tedious for one thing. And the second thing is you wonder, where is the student's view, and how does her view relate to the things the author says? And why list the many things? Why not just focus on one or two important points and respond to them? So this is something not to do in your summary writing. You may start out writing like this, but you definitely want to refine it to the kind of summary that conforms to what the textbook authors say. All right, so I'm going to show you a signal phrase because there's still some misunderstanding about what it means. Okay? So a signal phrase that you can use, particularly when you have two authors, is authors X and Y advocate. See this strong verb here? Okay, and what follows is their argument, a radical revision of the juvenile justice system. So what do you think would happen after this if this were a fleshed out summary? Well, maybe supporting details that justify or develop the argument. And what else do you expect to see? Well, I would expect to see a pivot to the student writer's argument in relation to a radical revision of the juvenile justice system. Okay? I would think that they support this. Okay? And the student writer may not support it, or may support it in some aspect and not in others. Okay? So that's what a fleshed out summary would look. All right, that's about it for this chapter. I'll talk to you soon in the next chapter.